Hey guys, how's it going? Shimbob here, and today I've got another Frontier Defense map guide for you guys, and today we're taking a look at war games. This map can be pretty fun at like easy and regular mode, but when you get into hard and the other difficulties, it can actually get genuinely hard. So having a few tips and tricks like in this guide can probably make your time on there a little bit more pleasant, hopefully. So let's kick things off as usual with the three main spawning locations for enemies, and they are here, here, and here. Now I'm not 100% sure on that final one and where it is exactly. Can't quite pinpoint it. I'm not really a roamer with my Titan and stuff, so I don't find myself that far back in the map at the start of the round. So I do know it's back here a bit, and I have been back there to kill like Mortar Titans and stuff, but I think this is pretty much where they spawn. The next main point of interest after that, though, would be actually probably even more important, to be honest, is the Spicy Boy location. So on the right hand lane here, we've got here and here. And you sort of just want to stay on top of them because unlike other maps, the Reapers that come out and launch the Spicy Boys, they can come multiple times in a round. Not like other maps where they'll come just once, and once you've taken care of them, they're done. They can be there up to 3 or more times once you get into the higher waves. On this left-hand lane, I don't play this side very much, but I think that they spawn and jump up onto this ship and maybe back here. Someone might have to confirm that for me, but I imagine that would come on both sides of the map and not just this right hand side that I always seem to be on. And while they're not like game breaking or anything, they can be very annoying, so it is something to stay on top of because there is so many of them that come out throughout a wave. If you're not killing them as fast as possible, they can get a lot of Spicy Boys out, and they can just do a lot of chip damage to your Titan, which can sort of hurt you in the long run, because if you just keep taking little damage from them, then before you know it, your Titan's gone, then you're just a pilot, you can't do as much damage, and if a tick comes up too while you're a pilot, you're pretty much cooked. So make sure whoever you've got on these sides is prioritizing Spicy Boys because they don't take long to kill, but they can be a bit of a pest. On this map, arc traps can be nice, probably not the number one priority like some other things, but if you do use them, I would recommend putting a few down just in the spawn areas like most other maps to sort of slow the enemy Titans down as soon as they spawn and give you a bit of extra time to set yourself up. And then maybe put a few extras if you've got them down the flanking route, so the very outside of the maps on the left and right hand sides is where they tend to flank from a bit, and they can kind of catch you a bit off guard. So if you put them in these lanes, a lot of them go down there and you'll be able to slow them down plenty. So on this map, similar to Homestead, I like to use turrets more than arc traps, just because there are flying drones that come in most waves in the left and right hand lanes, and they can be a bit of a nuisance, but turrets can take them out very quickly. And there are some really good spots to set up your turrets on this map. I know that the buildings and all the high spots can be a bit annoying with Mortar Specters and things like that being up there, but that can also be an advantage to put your turrets up there. It's just as annoying for the enemies to get to them. So I recommend putting them back sort of towards the harvester again, up on these pillars here, and just a few slightly raised areas, but you can also put them on these buildings just in front of here, and that way they're a little bit more protected, but they can have a good line of sight on enemies and any sort of weaker enemies that come through. Again, make sure that anyone who isn't currently in their Titan, or someone who's playing a bit more of a floater, roamer sort of role, make sure that they're the one getting to the turrets and getting them back up, because they can be vital and really protect the harvester from those flies that come in. So I briefly mentioned the Mortar Specters, sort of along the same vein as the Spicy Boys. You want to find out where they are ASAP, get up there and destroy them. They do spawn in and jump up on the roofs, so they can be a little bit annoying to get a line of sight on with your Titan, but again, if someone's not in a Titan at the time, or you are sort of earlier on in the wave and there's no real danger, just jump out of your Titan, take him out quickly, get back in your Titan. It's definitely worth it because they'll just put more chip damage on the harvester shield, and then before you know it, it's down, and then then you sort of start to feel overwhelmed, and everything else sort of piles on. So get on top of those things really early. So this map also has, on top of the Spicy Boys, Mortar Specters, and flying drones, it also has Mortar Titans, which spawn pretty far out in this back spawn usually, and they'll just set up right in their spawn. So you really need to send out a roamer, or even yourself, just leave your post and head up there and take him out as soon as possible. They're a top priority, just like the Specters and the Reapers. And I know there are a few other maps that have a sort of similar wave of enemies that come, sort of similar number and stuff with regards to Mortar Specters, Mortar Titans, flying drones, like Homestead has all of those things. But the thing that sort of makes war games a little bit more difficult, I think, is all the buildings and the built up areas. They make it quite difficult to get any sort of line of sight on your enemies, from a distance at least. So because of that, enemies are able to sort of get in closer into these tight quarters, and because the bottlenecks aren't as sort of clear cut as say Blackwater Canal. They can overwhelm you a little bit. They can come around through here, the middle bit, around the sides. There's a number of sort of flanking routes they can take, and if you're not on top of them and killing them before they get to these areas, then you can find yourself feeling very overwhelmed. And that's sort of when the Harvester can take a lot of damage, and if your team's not composed, you can just lose from there. So because of this, I recommend having like some sort of roamer, like a Ronin, to head out and sort of take them head on, take out those Mortar Titans and things like that out further out in the map. And because of the close quarters nature of this map with all the buildings and stuff, it sort of plays into his hands a bit for Ronin. Although he's not the strongest on the high difficulties, at like easy, regular, and even hard and stuff, he'll be fine. You can send one out, do as much damage as possible. It doesn't take long to get another Titan, so if he pushes out, does lots of damage, takes out a lot of Titans, and then goes down, that's fine. Get back, get in, get another Titan, and just keep going. But Ronin is definitely a top tier pick for this sort of map. Next up, I actually have seen a few people and myself, not to brag too much, do fairly well with Monarch on this map. As sort of like a defensive roamer, and if you're going to run a healing setup with Monarch, I think this is not a bad map for it, because the enemies sort of swamp both sides fairly hard. The people that are out there doing the main amount of damage, they can actually take a fair bit of damage too, with all like the ticks and the mortars and stuff coming in as well. So to have a Monarch who can pop back and forth, sort of swinging back and forth from this middle bit to put up some heals, extra damage, and just sort of make call outs, sort of like your quarterback of the team, I think that's a really good choice of Titan for this role. Then after those two sort of tailor-made roamer, quarterback, defensive type roles that I've just mentioned, I would just go with your preferred and strongest damage dealers. So Scorch and Legion, obviously really strong, lock down a lane by themselves. I've also played as North Star myself and locked down one side of the map easily on all the difficulties. So it doesn't really matter, just as long as you're comfortable with that Titan and you're able to take out things like Mortar Specters and the Spicy Boys and Mortar Titans and stuff, and be mobile enough to move between one or two different lanes on your side. So guys, that pretty much wraps it up. There's no real special tactic to this map, except it probably favors more mobile Titans a little bit, I would say, just because there is such tight quarters. So having to dodge and duck and weave in and out of some tight buildings, and being able to have a mobile Titan like a Ronin or a North Star or Monarch, is why I mentioned that one, is really handy and a real advantage to you and your team. So if you had to choose, you might favour those sort of lighter chassis Titans to your Legion and Scorches, but if they're going to be the sort of Titan that sits back anyway and just puts out as much damage to anything that gets through, then they'll be fine for that role too. So guys, let me know down in the comments your tips and tricks for this map as well, any suggestions or Titan ideas you might have. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it, if it was helpful, even subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Cheers.